Week 5 of the fantasy football season. Here's the top 12 kickers. I'm ranking this week. The first guy, Tyler Bass of the Buffalo Bills. So the Bills here have a good matchup versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. That seems like they really can't stop anyone right now on offense here. The New York Jets came back from behind and beat them in week 4. And right here, Buffalo, one of the best offenses, if not the best offense in all pro football here. So right now, Josh Allen and this team, they're going to get Tyler Bass a few opportunities. And obviously some extra points. And Bass, the last 2 out of 3 weeks, has had double-digit fantasy games. And right here, week 5 versus Pittsburgh, I definitely could see him do it again. Number 2, Justin Tucker of the Baltimore Ravens. So Justin Tucker, we know he's one of the best kickers of all time here. And right now, the last few weeks here, he's getting it going. Week 2 versus Miami, 10 fantasy points. Week 3, New England, 9. And week 4 versus Buffalo, 11. So right now, week 5 versus Cincinnati, division rival here. They give up the most fantasy points to kickers so far this season. And Tucker, he's automatic, no doubt about it. He's going to get his opportunities. He's going to put it through the uprights 95% of the time. And right now, I got him in number 2 versus the Bengals. Number 3, Evan Mcpherson of the mentioned Cincinnati Bengals. Evan Mcpherson, it's been a good season for him so far. I know week 1 he had a tough start, but week 2, 3, 4, he's put up monster fantasy points at the kicking position. Week 2 with Dallas, 13. Week 3 at the Jets, 10. Week 4 versus Miami, 11. And week 5 here, Baltimore. I know they give up the 12th least amount of fantasy points to kickers this season here. But Evan Mcpherson, I think, is going to have a good ball game in this one. And I'm going to ride the hot hand once again, saying that he's going to get double digits for the 4th week in a row. So Mcpherson, we know he's got a big boot, 50-plus yards. Cincinnati's going to get opportunities. I know the red zone offense hasn't been good, which bodes well for Mcpherson, where they got to settle for field goals. And in this one versus Baltimore, every point's going to count, and I know it's going to be a close game. So right now, I got him at 3. Number 4, Ryan Suckup, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Ryan Suckup, quietly, he's been one of the better kickers in fantasy football this season, with 8 or more fantasy points in the first 4 games of the season. And week 5 here, he's got a good matchup versus the Atlanta Falcons. I give up the 11th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. I think Tom Brady and this offense are going to be living in the red zone in this ball game. So Suckup, we know he's going to get a few extra points, and I think he's going to get 2 or 3 field goal attempts as well in this game. And this Tampa team, they're going to start to turn things around. They're going to start getting more opportunities in the red zone and field goals. And this week, I think it starts. And Suckup, I got it number 4. Number 5, Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs. So last week, I thought Harrison Butker was going to come back and play, but obviously that wasn't the case here for the Kansas City Chiefs. But right now, Harrison Butker, I think he's possible to come back here in week 5 versus Vegas. And we know this Kansas City Chiefs team loves putting points on the board versus Raider defense. So right here, Harrison Butker, if he's healthy and ready to go, he's always one of the better kickers in the league. And obviously on one of the best offenses in the league as well with this Kansas City Chiefs team. So right now, if Butker's going to play, he's definitely a kicker I'm going to have in the top 5. But to play it safe, even if he does come back, I got him in number 5 for this week. But he definitely has the potential to be a top 3 kicker the rest of the way. Number 6, Daniel Carlson of the Vegas Raiders. So Daniel Carlson, he just puts up points week in and week out for fantasy owners. In the last 3 weeks here, he's been atop the leaderboard in fantasy points for kickers. Week 2 versus the Cardinals, 13. Week 3 at Tennessee, 10. And week 4 versus Denver, 14. So week 5 here at Kansas City, if they want to stay the course with this Kansas City Chief offense, they're going to have to put up points. And then we're going to have to try a few deep ones in this one. 45, 50-plus yards in this one. So Daniel Carlson's been a good kicker the last couple seasons. And once again this season, he's been good for this Raider team. And I got him in number 6. Number 7, Matt Gay of the Los Angeles Rams. So Matt Gay, he hasn't had a great season, but he's still putting up fantasy points and being solid for this Ram team. So week 5 here, good matchup on paper versus the Dallas Cowboys. I give up the 2nd most fantasy points to kickers because they're bend but don't break type of defense. And this Ram offense, they're having trouble on the offensive line here. So right here, I wouldn't be surprised if they're settling for field goals at least a few times in this game as this Ram team. Even though Matthew Gay's high this season has been only 8 fantasy points. But I think this week here versus Dallas, he can match that to do better. And I got him in number 7. Number 8, Greg Joseph of the Minnesota Vikings. So Greg Joseph had a monster week in week 1. Week 2 and 3 did nothing. And then week 4 came back with a vengeance at the New Orleans Saints here with a good ball game. So week 5 here, another good matchup and another indoor game at home here for this Minnesota Viking team versus the Chicago Bears. So I think this Viking team, they're going to get up and down the field. But this Bear defense, I'm not going to say they're horrible. They actually go out there and compete and do make a few plays. So I think they could hold this Viking team out of the end zone for a few red zone opportunities. And that would obviously give Greg Joseph an opportunity for some field goals. So this week here, he's back on the radar. He was back on the waiver wire radar as well as Joseph. And this week I got him at number 8, number 9, Young-Ho Koo of the Atlanta Falcons. So Young-Ho Koo, he's been a solid kicker this season here and one of the tops in the league as well. Week 1, a monster game. Week 2, an off game. But the last 2 weeks here, 10 or more fantasy points. So week 5 here, if they want to stay the course with this Tampa Bay Buck offense, they're going to have to put field goals and they're going to have to try some long ones. I know Koo is obviously a better kicker at home in Atlanta with the indoor and the home field advantage. But right here, week 5 at Tampa, as long as the weather's nice and it's not rainy, he's going to get opportunities, I think, in this one to kick some deep balls. And Marcus Mariota, he just don't finish drives off for this Falcon team in the red zone, where they're going to have to settle for a lot of field goals and half so far in the first 4 weeks of the season. So Young-Ho Koo, every week I pretty much like him as a start. And this week I like him at number 9 in the rankings. Number 10, Brett Maher of the Dallas Cowboys. So Maher in his 3rd tour with the Dallas Cowboys, he's been pretty solid and one of the better pickups over the last few weeks. Week 2 versus Cincinnati, 12 fantasy points. Week 3 at the Giants, 12 fantasy points. And week 4, the Commanders, 14 fantasy points. So right here, week 5 at the Rams, Rams give up 13th most fantasy points to kickers. And this Ram defense, I could see them keep this Cowboy offense out of the red zone out of the end zone a few times in this one. So Brett Maher's got a boot. It's an indoor game, SoFi Stadium. And the Cowboys here, if they want to compete and try to win this ball game, I think we're going to see them take some chances with long field goals if they have to win this one. And Brett Maher, it seems like the last few weeks here, he's good for at least one 50-plus yarder. So I got him in number 10. Number 11, Jason Sambis of the Miami Dolphins. So Sanders, a few seasons ago, he's one of the better kickers in fantasy football. But so far this season, he hasn't done much besides week 1 and week 4. And week 5 here at the New York Jets, I like the matchup. This Miami team, they usually play great football versus this Jet team. And I think Teddy Bridgewater, there's going to be drives where he's not going to finish it off in the end zone, where they're going to have to settle for field goals. So last week, Sanders, week 4 at Cincinnati, 220 to 29 yarders and a 40 to 49 yarder. So right here, week 5 at the Jets, I think we see 8 to 10 fantasy points here from him. And this is a game where I think the Dolphins will be control of, but they'll have to settle some field goals. So I got him in 11, and the 12th and final kicker I'm ranking this week's Mason Crosby of the Green Bay Packers. So Crosby, he hasn't done much this season here in terms of fantasy football, but he's got a good matchup on paper versus the Giants. I give up the 8th most fantasy points to kickers. And Crosby, he had the game winner last week versus the New England Patriots. Maybe he'll get his confidence up. Maybe he'll get more opportunities. And right here, he's available in over 90% of fantasy leagues. But this week, I got a feeling he could finish within the top 12 in kicking the football. And I got him at 12, so that's the top 12 kickers I'm ranking here for week 5 of the fantasy football season.